Hi everyone, it's Shannon and welcome to Disney Days Wednesday. If you haven't done so already, make sure to hit subscribe so you get a notification every Wednesday when my vlog goes live. So today we're going to talk about my top 5 DVC resorts for families with toddlers. So if you've watched my other videos, you know that we have a 4-year-old son, and we started going with him to Walt Disney World when he turned 1. And it was immediately after that we bought into Disney Vacation Club and haven't looked back. So one of the things I noticed was people on Facebook would always ask, oh, what's the best resort for DVC resort for families? And people would always give their opinions, but never really taking into consideration what the family dynamic was. So that's why I kind of decided to write this article, and this is actually an article I wrote for my blog, DisneyDays.com, several months ago, and I just decided to turn it into a vlog for this channel. But I noticed that, if you have a tween or a teenager, you're going to have a very different dynamic and different needs than a family with a toddler. So that was the reason why I wanted to focus this article and this vlog on families with toddlers, because that's the situation I'm in. And I will tell you, the resorts that I think I would have liked or thought I would have liked before going with our son have definitely changed, and I have seen what we need and what we don't need and what's important. One of the things I will tell you that's very, very important, a playground. If there's no playground, we try not to stay there. And that is because we'll talk about one of my resorts that is one of my favorites, but it didn't have a playground. And when it was raining and it was too cold to go to the pool, we had nothing else to do. So playground is a necessity for when we go to a resort. Next up is a community hall. Community halls are something that were incorporated in the earlier DVC resorts, but in recent years, they haven't been adding them. I think the last DVC resort to have a community hall, it was Bay Lake Tower. So the newer ones, Polynesian, Grand Floridian, they don't have community halls. Doesn't take away from the resorts. The resorts are amazing, but for a family with a toddler, that community hall can sometimes just save you. So community hall is something we also look for. And then also all of these ratings are based off of studio villas. And I did that because that is the most popular room category. So some, when I go through the rankings, you'll see that some rankings, and we'll go into number 5, that if it was based on a 1-bedroom, it would probably be higher on the list. So starting with that, my number 5 choice for a DVC resort for families with toddlers is Old Key West. And we love Old Key West. Old Key West is awesome. First of all, there's not only just one playground, there's several. There's several throughout the property. It is a big resort, so there's several throughout the property. There's also several pools. There's only one main pool with a slide, but there's several pools throughout the property. And also there's a community hall, and it's a really nice community hall. My son, there was one morning where it was too cold, so we went there, we colored, they had some games, we got to play, so it was just a lot of fun. Also for a family, not that it matters with families with toddlers, but there's a really nice gym there too. So the reason why it's lower on the list, because it's based off a studio villa, and the studio villas have 2 queen beds. Not the best setup if you have a toddler. Our son will sleep on a queen bed, no problem. Disney will provide you with bed rails if you need them. But again, it's just not the best setup. But it's a great resort. We love it. We actually are booked in a studio villa this coming October for a short 4-night trip. And I think we'll be fine. It's going to be a very park intensive trip, so we don't plan on having a lot of downtime. Perk with this resort is that if you do have a car, whether it's your own or you're renting, you park literally right outside your villa. So super convenient if you're driving to and from. We live in South Florida, so we always drive to Walt Disney World, so it was very convenient to have that our car right there if we needed to. We take the bus a lot, so that wasn't a problem, but it was very convenient to have our car if we needed to. Also, the minivan was able to pick us up literally right outside our door rather than having to walk all the way to the lobby. Another thing is that when we got our groceries delivered, they were able to deliver them straight to our room. They didn't have to go to the lobby and leave them with Bell Services. They just came straight to our room. Super convenient, loved it. We also prefer, I will say, we prefer ground floor rooms whenever possible. So we just find them very easy. The view is nice for a day, but we find that ground floor rooms are very convenient and definitely at Old Key West. Next up, number 4 is going to be the Polynesian Villas. And the Polynesian is amazing. And I think a lot of people are probably surprised that this is not higher up on our list. So, first of all, best studios on property. You have a dual bathroom, only one toilet, but you have a shower and a bathtub with a shower, so 2 people can get ready at the same time. Super convenient, just a lot of space, and the space is utilized really well. I will say, if you do stay at this resort, make sure to bring a lot of hangers because there's not a lot of drawer space. So the reason why it's only number 4 and not higher is because my 2 criterias. There's no community hall and there's no playground. So even though it's got this amazing pool, an amazing splash pad, and our son is not a big fan of the splash pads, but loved the one at the Polynesian. Out of a 9-night trip, there was one day where it was semi-warm enough to go to the pool. And we were there for maybe an hour, and it was just the only time during the day. It either rained or was too cold for us to go to the pool. So our resort days, we had nothing to do. And we actually had to go to Magic Kingdom to go to the playground at Dumbo so that we could just let our son play. And we had no intention to go to a park that day. It ended up being fine, but we would have much rather had stayed at a resort, kind of made it a nice resort day. But because Lilo's Playhouse is gone, there's no community hall, there's no playground, and it was too cold for the pool, this wasn't really much for us to do. Now, if you're going in the summer, maybe not a problem, but just remember, there's a lot of storms that come through in Florida. So that's the thing with the Polynesian is if it's raining and there's a storm, there's not much else for the little kids to do. So just something to consider. However, monorail, awesome. Being on the monorail loop is incredible. And I think the Polynesian has the best kind of location because it's 2 stops away from Magic Kingdom, and you can just literally walk over to the TTC and take the direct monorail over to Epcot, which was super convenient as too. I would say is if you're leaving one of the parties or you're leaving late at night, don't go on the monorail. Take the ferry over to the TTC and then walk over. We left the Christmas party the last night of our trip, and they had shut down the express loop for the monorail. So every single person that was taking the monorail was taking the resort loop. I didn't realize it was too late. By the time I was kind of in line, it was too late. It took us 90 minutes to get back to the Polynesian. Whereas if I had just gotten on the ferry, we would have been back in 20 minutes. So little note is that if you see a long line at the monorail, take the ferry over to the TTC. It'll be much faster. We actually enjoyed that, and we did that a couple times going back and forth. So it was much easier to kind of go to the TTC. So Polynesian number 4, great resort. Not the best with toddlers unless it's a short trip or you know the weather is going to be fantastic. So number 3 I think is going to surprise a lot of people, and that's because it's Saratoga Springs. So Saratoga Springs usually gets a bad rep, but I think with Saratoga Springs it's got a lot going for it. 1, community hall. 2, a lot of playgrounds. And then 3, some really great killer pools around the property. So, and there's some little splash pads, not only at the main pool, but I think it's at the grandstand area as well. So there's a lot of different areas for the kids to play. I also think with a toddler, just having wide open green space for them to run is really helpful. And Saratoga Springs has got that. So it's really, really convenient to be able to run and let them play. Also with the new refurbs, the studios are going to have the Murphy bed, the under the TV Murphy bed for the little ones, which are perfect for the little ones to sleep on. So Saratoga Springs is number 3 on my list. Also, I don't think you can compete with the walking distance to Disney Springs. So if you have a resort day and there's not much to do, and if it's raining or it's too cold for the pool, you can always just go to Disney Springs, take the boat, or just walk over to Disney Springs. And where Disney Springs is, if you're staying during Christmas time, it's really close to the Christmas tree trail. So it's really convenient that way. Also, to be able to see Santa Claus. So if you're going to see Santa Claus and you're staying at Saratoga Springs, you are in the perfect location. Next up on my list is Animal Kingdom Lodge. And I think this is so hard for us to choose between 1 and 2, and it really comes down to location. But we love Animal Kingdom Lodge. We prefer Jambo. A lot of people will prefer Kidani. I think it's just a matter of personal choice. We prefer Jambo because we like being close to the Mara and everything that the main lobby has to offer. Kidani is fantastic as well. I think Kidani, I wouldn't stay in Kidani unless I was in a 1-bedroom. And then the 1-bedroom, you do have 2 bathrooms. So that's really convenient as well. So, but again, we're basing this off of studio accommodations. So I would prefer to stay in Jambo just because I wouldn't want to stay in Kidani without a kitchen. But either one is great. The one thing about Kidani is, with Animal Kingdom Lodge is you have, both of them have playgrounds. Kidani has a community hall. You have 2 amazing pools. Kidani has an amazing splash pad, and then you have the animals. And there's so many different activities going on throughout the day at the resort. So one of the things that my son loves is the Primal Parade. I think it's on at 8:15 at night. Might change throughout the year, but he did it when he was 18 months, which he was barely walking, and he was still awake, and we just went down in his PJs, and it was just a lot of fun. And then we did it last year when he was 3. So it was really fun to see the difference. And they sit in a circle and they talk about their favorite animals and they learn about Africa. And it's just a really fun memory, and I can't wait to go back. So and Animal Kingdom Lodge is our favorite resort for a staycation. We did a staycation last year for July, and it was fantastic. There was so much to do at both resorts, and because if you're staying at Jambo or you're staying at Kidani, you have access to the amenities at each resort. It's fantastic. So Animal Kingdom Lodge is our number 2, and the reason why it's not higher is just because of location. And finally, our number 1 DVC resort for families with toddlers is Boardwalk. And Boardwalk Villas, I will tell you, our first stay was okay. We didn't love it, but we didn't hate it, but we liked it. And then we stayed there again, and we had a better location, and we were on a ground floor, just all around better location, and we loved it. Again, unless you're afraid of clowns, the clown slide doesn't bother me, but whatever. Our son loved that slide, and it has a community hall, it has a playground, and then you have walking distance to Hollywood Studios and Epcot. You can't get better than that. And if you're running any of the Run Disney races, a lot of times the Run Disney races will run through the boardwalk, which is awesome. So if you're going to a Run Disney race and you want your family to see you, but you don't want them to have to go all the way to the finish line, if you're running the race and it runs on the course, the boardwalk is another great place. So boardwalk is just fantastic. Again, it has the room which has the Murphy bed under the TV, just fantastic. I will say you almost need to own there to get to stay there. We've been lucky. I've had the opportunity to stay there 3 times. One time was on cash. We stayed on the inside, but twice we stayed on the villa side in studios. One time in a garden pool view, and then another time in the standard view. And both times we only got through a wait list. Very, very lucky. We've never been able to get in at 7 months, but we've been lucky with some wait lists. So I always put our December trip on a wait list for a 1-bedroom at Boardwalk. It hasn't happened yet. Hopefully, maybe this year will be our luck. I doubt it. But you really need to own there to be able to stay there. But if you are lucky, it is a great resort for those families with toddlers. And finally, I'm going to talk about my 2 honorable mentions. So first up is Beach Club. Beach Club is fantastic. We love Beach Club. We're actually booked for a staycation at Beach Club for this July. But for families with toddlers, I don't think it's the best. The pool is very, very deep. The slide is a kind of across the walkway, and it's pretty far. And then the toddler area is also across the walkway on Crescent Lake. So it's kind of far, so you're kind of separated. So if you have a toddler and you have older kids, they're going to be separated. So it's not really convenient. The sand bottom pool is fantastic, but our son was he liked it, but he actually had more fun in the Boardwalk pool than he did at Beach Club. He's a little older now, so we think that, the staycation might be fun, and he'll be able to, he's a better swimmer now. So we're looking forward to doing this staycation at Beach Club. But for toddlers, like I said, I don't think it's the best resort. I would also say is there's no playground and there's no community hall. There used to be a kids club, but it's not there anymore. And they do have activities in the solarium from time to time. We've done ceramics and some other things, but most of the DVC resorts have that, but it's not something you can count on. So if the weather's not good for the pool, then there's really not much else to do. But I will say the other thing is it's literally at the back door of Epcot. You can't get better than that. And then it's right next to the Epcot station for the Skyliner to bring you over to Hollywood Studios. So you really can't get better than that. We love the Beach Club. It's probably our favorite resort, but for families with toddlers, it just gets an honorable mention. And then next up would be Bay Lake Tower. And this is the resort I always hear people say, this is the best resort for families. It's the best resort for families. And that I have to disagree with if you're in a studio. And the reason why is the studios are small. They are the smallest on property, but also the way they're laid out, they feel even smaller. Because the kitchenette isn't in a galley, it's actually almost like a kitchen. The living space is very, very small. We walked in and we felt claustrophobic. We only stayed there one night, and that was enough. We couldn't wait to move, and we were doing a split stay, and we're moving to Beach Club, and Beach Club felt 10 times bigger because it was just so small. It's just not a really good setup. I've heard the 1-bedrooms are amazing, and I think we would love to stay there in a 1-bedroom, but in a studio, I would not stay there again with my son. I will say the pool was fun, not much theming, but I will tell you with a toddler, they really could care less about the theming. We did utilize the community hall though. While we had some time between our split stay, we had some time to kill, we did go to the community hall, and the community hall was awesome. So that's the reason why you can't really beat that walk to Magic Kingdom. We went to after hours when that was the reason why we stayed there, and we walked over to after hours to Magic Kingdom and then walked back. We had a sitter for our son. He was only 2 at the time. So we felt very comfortable staying at Bay Lake, that we were within walking distance if anything happened. But again, we were anxious to get out of there because it was just very, very small. So love Bay Lake. I think it's beautiful, but the size of the rooms, if you're staying in a studio, I personally would not stay there unless it was just my husband and myself. So that is my top 5 resorts for top 5 DVC resorts for families with toddlers. So if you like this video, please make sure to hit like and make sure to hit subscribe so you can get a notification next week when my next vlog goes live. Bye everyone.